Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Sports Time HQ. I am your host, Fernando. Joined with me today is my great co-host, Keith. Keith, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good, Fernando. How are you?
Pretty good. It's Waiver Wire week 3 already. Can you believe we're already going to week 4?
I know it's gone so quick. It needs to slow down because we'll be complaining again that the season will be over in a blink of an eye.
I know. I mean, it's absolutely incredible, and I mean, we've had a lot of close games still. Many close games.
Yeah, defense is still on top. If you're looking at Sunday Night Football in particular,
11 to 10.
Yeah, not a game for the purest on offense, but definitely if you're a defensive guy, that was a good game for you.
Exactly, 100%. Let's get deep dive into the news and notes around the league already. Some news that just came out is Sterling Shepard season is officially done again. His tore his ACL last night. It came on the very last play of the game. Came on the very last play of the game. It was a non-contact injury, and he just fell to the ground, and he ended up tearing his ACL. So, Odell Beckham,
going back to the Giants.
he just tweeted out earlier too. I forget what he just tweeted, but he tweeted something about possibly making a return, maybe.
I'd be surprised. I think he'd still be very frustrated with Daniel Jones as the quarterback. Unfortunate injury for Sterling Shepard. One of the main targets there, I suppose. Kenny Galladay didn't look great again last night. So yeah, it's a shame. The Giants, I suppose, the whole game wasn't very good. It kind of livened up in a bit the second half, but the Giants didn't look very good. They have 2 wins. That might be their only 2 wins. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see what happens, especially Kenny Galladay getting paid $72 million for 4 years, just maybe a season or 2 ago. So
yeah,
I mean,
they've crazy money. I think the wide receivers on the team are worth the most in the league. So
they are.
It's crazy.
Most in the league. So it's gonna be interesting to see what they do. I mean, maybe they sign Odell for cheap. Maybe, I don't know, but
be surprised if we get Odell for cheap.
Yeah, I know. That's why he's still in free agency, right?
Yeah, he's right. I thought the Bucks might get him, soon. I know they got Cole Beasley last week, but I thought there might have been something there with their issues at wide receiver, but who knows?
Exactly. Both our teams ended up dropping this week. Again, more severe on my team with Mac Jones, most likely going to be on a short-term IR. I would expect so. I hope he is, because he had a severe high ankle injury. And I mean, he's not going to come back next week against the Packers, nor do the Patriots plan on winning against the Packers next week. So We'll be looking for a top draft pick next year.
You think? I mean, I've heard the rumors of Cam coming back. I've heard the rumors of going and getting Minshew off Philly. I don't know what you're hearing there, but I think if you want to be competitive, I think you probably need to go out and get one of these guys, unless is Hoyer still around there, or Bailey Zapp?
I think Hoyer's currently the backup quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a great situation. Again, you run the ball mostly anyways, but it's not a great situation. And I fear for you guys against the Packers. And then flipping to my Hawks, bad loss. I was expecting us, even though we're not very good, to beat the Falcons. It wasn't a bad game, actually. It was fairly end to end. But yeah, Gino at the end, he had an okay game up until the end, and he just blew it completely. So yeah, I was happy we bet the Broncos week 1, and I think that's what we'll have to live on for the rest of the season.
Yeah, and I was doing I don't know if you saw my preseason predictions. I think I had the Patriots. I had some high hopes on the Patriots, maybe a little biased wins there, but I had them going 12-5. And I mean, I was doing the record on my radio show on WECS 90.1 FM. I was doing my radio show yesterday, and I was predicting, I think, the Patriots' final record, and I predicted them 5-12.
Yeah, I was about to say flip that. If Mac Jones is going to be out and you're not going to get anybody else in, you're not going to win too many games, I don't think.
Which, I mean, to be completely considered, I mean, with the 5-12 record, I'm perfectly fine with that, because that just means we can finally get a true wide receiver 1.
Yeah, true. I mean, it's just another season kind of down the drain type of thing, though, for the Patriots, and Belichick's not going to like that.
Of course he's not. I mean, he's going to still try and do his job on trying to win, but I would be shocked if the Patriots get more than 5 wins.
Yeah. I'd be shocked too. It all depends. We need to find more details of how long Daniel Jones is going to be out, and if they're going to try and get someone in like Cam on a short-term deal just to play some games while he's out. So.
Exactly. Myles Garrett, he had a freak car accident, got transported to the hospital, and he managed, if I'm correct, he managed to get released already, and he is good to go.
Yeah, he's still being evaluated apparently, but yeah, it's he got lucky, I think, for what I've been reading, which is good. So yeah, good. He's okay, and hopefully he's be able to play this weekend.
Exactly. Raiders, only team 0-3. Did you expect them to go 0-3?
No, I didn't. I think Josh McDaniels is, he's on the firing line
doing the
here.
greatest.
Yeah, well, if you go 0-3, I think your odds cut down drastically in making the playoffs. So another defeat this weekend, he's gone. They're definitely going to roll. He's out the door. I don't know. He might find himself back with the Patriots as the offensive coach. Who knows?
Which is exactly what the Patriots need.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, it's not looking good for the Raiders. They spend all this money on Devontae Adams, and yeah, they're 0-3.
Yeah, they lost against the Titans last week by 2 points. They lost to the Cardinals in overtime, and then they lost to the Chargers by 5 points. All one-score games, but they end up going to face the Denver Broncos, who are somehow 2-1 still. And Las Vegas is currently favored to win.
Oh, really? No, I'd take the Broncos just because their defense is good, but they need to figure out what's going on with Russ there and getting his game going. But
I think the reason why Las Vegas is favored is because they're at home.
Oh, okay, yeah, but I'd still go with the Broncos. They'll be my pick this week over the Raiders, and then unlucky for Josh McDaniels to probably be out then on Monday.
I don't know. I gotta do a deep dive in my game predictions because last week really hurt my record. I mean, I went 5-11.
I was pretty bad too. I'm pretty sure. The only one I was proud of, I called the Jags to beat the Chargers, so I didn't mind that one. But I wasn't great. I picked the Giants last night.
Yeah, I did too.
Yeah, I think I picked San Fran against the Broncos, and I
picked the Jets to beat the Bengals.
Oh, did you? Well, then you're definitely down on that one. But my picks weren't good this week either.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a wild season because it's all been like one-score games mostly, and I mean, it's just kind of flipped the other way.
It is. The fences are like, I don't know if I'll go as far and say they're on top, but they're definitely up to speed more than previous years.
Exactly. So the Eagles and Dolphins, the last two teams remaining who are undefeated. Any take on which one will go the farthest?
The Eagles. I think they have the all-around game on offense, on defense. It's Jalen Hurts looks great so far. I don't see a lot of teams stopping them, as it is. I was expecting them to be good this year, to be fair, but I wasn't expecting them to be this good. I really like what I see from the Eagles. Dolphins, I think will be fine. They'll probably, are they going to win the division, Fernando?
Well, I don't know. It's gonna actually come down to the very last couple games. They end up facing the Bills. I think just after they face the 4-game span, they face San Francisco 49ers, the Chargers, the Packers, and then the Bills. That's a 4-game span towards the end of the season.
So they got a tough run, but I think they'll be thereabouts for playoffs. Whether they're good enough is another thing. I know they bet the Bills, but come on, that Bills secondary was all a bunch of second teamers, third teamers. That's not
one of the cheapest.
Exactly, like $5 million or something like that. Yeah. Not even. But I think if I had to pick a team, I have a sneaky bet on the Eagles to win the Super Bowl anyways, so I'm happy with that so far.
Did you pick them to win the Super Bowl?
Not on like pick'ems on anything that I put up on Huddle Up on Instagram, but just myself, I just kind of thought maybe
sneaky one
have a chance. Yes, sneaky bet. Yeah.
I put a poll out late last night after the game because I wanted to see since they were the two last undefeated, which team will have the better record at the end of the season. Right now, 213 votes in, 78% say the Eagles, 22% say the Dolphins. And I wrote an article, and the article should be coming up very soon out on Sports Time HQ on the blog, and I have them both going 14-3.
Really?
Yeah, I have them both going 14-3. Eagles have, if I had to pick one team that has a slightly better advantage, it's the Eagles based on their overall possible like games, strength of schedule.
Mhm.
I had the Dolphins losing 3 back to back to back. They edge out the 49ers. They beat they lose to the Chargers with Justin Herbert being back and fully healthy. They lose to the Packers and lose to the Bills. And for I think the Eagles, I think I had them losing to the Packers and some other teams. I can't remember off the top of my head, but yeah, I think they both go 14-3. They could lose the last game of the season because why not? If they clinch the first seed.
Yeah, true. I mean, I can see the Eagles going 14-3. Dolphins, I'm not too sure about. But yeah, I don't know. It's you're cut down the middle. That's why you put the poll up, I'm guessing so.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see which one actually stays undefeated longer. I had the Dolphins. I had them going undefeated longer than the Eagles, but overall they finish roughly the same.
Okay.
So keeping up on the Dolphins, one of the last news and notes around the league, Tua's injury. I don't know if you saw the video or watched the game.
Yeah, I'd seen it. Yeah.
Did you see it being a back injury or a concussion?
Concussion for me. When he fell on his back and smacked his head, he was wobbly. When he got up, he was definitely wobbly. I know there's an investigation on how the concussion protocol was done and everything like that, but I haven't heard anything else. But all the reports coming out saying what he didn't practice or whatever, wouldn't have been practicing yesterday and stuff like that because it's back and all that. I mean, they have to go along with that now because they're kind of stuck to it. It's just whether what the league deem as did they actually follow the protocol correctly. So, I don't know. It's going to be interesting because I imagine there'll be a fine anyways, but it'd be interesting to see if he got like a game ban or something like that.
Exactly, because NFLPA is currently investigating the whole situation. And I mean, once I saw that, because I was watching it live, I mean, once I watched that and I saw him go down, you can see the slow motion of him smacking his head right to the ground. Yeah. And then him coming up, wobbling, falling, tripping.
Didn't look good.
Like he was drunk almost.
Yeah.
So he clearly didn't look good and clearly had to be in concussion. And I said the moment that happened, I said, oh, he's done for the game. Bills win this.
Yeah, that's what I thought too. I was surprised to see him back out there.
Yeah, and then they just somehow come back out here. I don't know. It's a little fishy to me, but again, it seems like that's what the Dolphins have been doing lately with the Brady situation as well.
Yeah, true. Yeah, we'll see what comes out of it. It'll be interesting.
Yeah, we'll see. So now that's all for the news and notes and injuries around the league. Let's get to our bust of the week. And for our first bust, Keith, I'll start with you. Who is your bust of the week?
My bust is Mike Williams from the Chargers. I mean, they got blown out by the Jags. I don't think anybody was expecting that. He did see 6 targets, but he got 1 reception for 15 yards and he got a touchdown. Okay, he got 8.5 fantasy points, which is like, all right, for 1 reception is pretty good. But after the big week he got, previous when he had the 10 for 8, I think he got like 25 fantasy points. I think that's a bust and a half. I mean, I get Justin Herbert's not fully healthy, but then again, Keenan Allen wasn't there again. So the opportunity was there to have another big week from Mike Williams. And, 8.5 is just not going to cut it for you in fantasy from a guy that you took probably 3rd, 4th, 5th round of your draft. So, yeah, he's my bust.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. I mean, last year before the season started, we mentioned how Mike Williams was a break it or make it type of player. He was either going to be fantasy relevant, fantasy not relevant. He ended up being very well fantasy relevant. Was that maybe just a flaw type of season, and maybe this is really a true type of wide receiver he is, and he just can't get it done?
Maybe, I don't know. It's hard to tell. The targets are definitely there. It's just, where if they're going near him, they're just not going all to him. It's going to be interesting to see what happened this week because it looks like Keenan Allen is back practicing and he'll go straight back in. And I suppose all the help around Justin Herbert and how good he'll be and stuff like that. So I'm not too sure. I'm always, I have a lot of shares of Mike Williams just because he fell. I think a lot of people were kind of outing him. So I was like happy to take him where I got him and got him as a wide receiver too in most leagues. So I was happy with that. Just that, there needs to be more consistency with him. I think that's the issue.
Yeah, we'll see if Mike can psych everyone out this season on his fantasy value. But let's go into my other player, and it's a man, the speedy deep threat player, the guy, the man, the myth, the legend. It's Mr. JJ Justin Jefferson. He's one of my busts of the week, and I mean he's got the targets. 11 targets the first game, scored 39.4 points. Man, it was elite. He came off like there was nothing. He still has elite shape. But then the last 2 weeks, kind of a little questionable games. Against Philly, 12 targets, 6 receptions. He only got half of those, and 10.8 points total. Not something you draft a highly rated wide receiver at to score 10.8 points. And then last week, he kind of just does a dud for you and scores 4.4 points with 6 targets. So something to keep in mind there for Justin Jefferson. And I mean, I don't expect anyone to drop him, nor do I expect anyone to not start the guy because he's great. So he's something that he was a player that definitely busted for me. And I have Justin Jefferson and Mike Williams in a lot of leagues, in the same like type of leagues on the same lineups. And I mean, it really hurts. I think I lost almost every single league because of them.
Yeah. I mean, it's unfortunate. Justin Jefferson's probably going to get double coverage, going forward because of who he is and what he does. And we've seen Adam Thielen had a bigger game this week. Who he had the down weeks. It's also the issue with Kirk Cousins. I don't think he can give 2 wide receivers the big games all the time. It's either one or the other. He's just not there, Kirk Cousins. He's an average quarterback in my mind. He's not one of the elite guys who can handle multiple, can throw the ball around. You can have guys with 2 touchdowns and, 20 fancy points of stuff week in, week out. I think you're just going to have to take the rough with the smooth with Justin Jefferson, and you probably will have these down weeks, and you'll see Adam Thielen do okay, and then they'll flip-flop, and Justin Jefferson will go off on a good week, and you'll probably see Thielen get nothing. So I think that's kind of the way it goes with them. But the only thing is with Jefferson, he will have more good weeks than bad weeks. So I think he is obviously someone who will be fine going forward.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm planning on starting him next week. I don't plan on dropping him or not starting him. He's JJ, especially Mike Williams as well. I mean, I plan on starting him too. So these two really are big players who most likely everybody started and ended up busting for you this week. And if you have them like I do in the same league on the same roster, it really hurt your team this week. Yep. So that's all for the bust of the week. Let's get into a question from Matthew Bona. Do you think I could pull off a trade of Michael Carter and DJ Moore for Kareem Hunt and Jamal Williams? I have Swift, so Jamal Williams would be pretty important for me. To be completely honest, Swift, so it looks like he's going to be out most likely for the next 2 weeks until the Lions go on their week 6 bye week. At least that's what head coach Dan Campbell said. I think if you can get Jamal Williams and Kareem Hunt for those 2 guys, I think that's a steal, in my opinion, because I don't see Michael Carter really being fantasy relevant all that much, even though he has done great the first 2 weeks and then last week not the greatest. DJ Moore, a lot of people have hype on him, so just because of the name, you may be able to get those 2 guys.
I mean, quick answer is yes, I think you can get them for them guys, but DJ Moore has not had a good start to the season. I think he got like 2.5 fancy points or something, not very good last week. Jamal Williams is going to be important going forward now. Yes. Of course, because of Swift not there, and he was getting the goal line work anyway. So, there was value in that. Kareem Hunt's going to have his up and down week depending on basically who the Browns face. They're against someone tough. He will see a lot of work in the passing game and get a lot more usage on the ground too. Yeah. If not, it's just going to be the Chubb show. If it's going to be an easier game, you'll see Chubb just dominate. So can you get it done? Yes. Will you? I'm not too sure. You could. What I would always do is send that deal.
Yeah.
Send the deal, see what they say, and try and work it out. I don't think it's terrible because DJ Moore has the potential to go off. It was always probably going to take time for him and Baker to get on the same wavelength. But I mean, you're happy getting Jamal Williams because you have Swift, throwing in Kareem Hunt, who I really do like in PPR. Michael Carter, yeah, I'm okay. I'm in and out off just because it's that Jets offense. But DJ Moore, I do like. It's just going to take him time to get on the same wavelength as Baker. But I would definitely submit the offer and see if you can work something out.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like you mentioned, I think you could pull it off. Will the owner want to pull the deal and pull the trigger on that deal? It's the question on how much hype they have over Kareem Hunt. If they're not a big Kareem Hunt guy, they may give it to you. If they're a big, really big DJ Moore guy, it all depends on the favoritism, really.
The only issue I see from, being the Swift owner is someone kind of holding you to ransom, knowing that you need Jamal Williams to replace him. They may ask for something ridiculous. That's what might happen. Because I know if I, desperately didn't want to get rid of, Williams or something like that, now that he's a starter for at least a couple of games, I'd probably be asking for a bit more and see what happens. But yeah, that's the only issue I see with it.
Exactly. I mean, it'll be interesting to see. You may have to give a little bit more, but honestly, that deal isn't bad in my opinion. I would choose Kareem Hunt and Jamal Williams over DJ Moore and Michael Carter.
Yep, agreed.
So let's go to our biggest surprises of the week. I'll start with mine, Devin Singletary. I mean, hello, Singletary, for all you fantasy owners who most likely benched him if you had backup running backs. Devin Singletary absolutely did phenomenal, scoring 24.1 fantasy points. He didn't have that many attempts, only had 9 attempts, 13 yards. But his targets with receptions, 11 targets, 9 receptions, 78 yards, and a touchdown. He looked very good in the passing game. Whether or not that keeps up is still to be determined. I don't expect him to continue this, nor do I think anyone else does. I know in one of my leagues, I had Devin Singletary, and I wanted to bench him. I wanted to bench him for someone, but the problem is I had no one. I had no other running backs, so I had to start him. And it ended up working out in my favor. Devin Singletary ended up actually winning me the league. I think I won by like 10 points, which usually if Devin Singletary plays, don't expect you to win with him in the lineup. But he ended up working out for me, and he is my biggest surprise of the week, in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely surprised. The only thing I would say is don't get carried away with it and don't think it's going to happen week in, week out. I mean, the Bills lost in the end, and we seen, was it Ken Dorsey going mad up in the boot and stuff like that.
That was the funniest thing. Many memes.
Crazy. That was so crazy. Josh Allen throwing his helmet on the ground. So remember, they did lose, so things will change, I think, going forward. But yeah, he was definitely surprised. I mean, Singletary's always been okay. To be fair, I think Zach Moss is okay too. It's just the way the Bills use their running backs. They don't. Yeah,
they don't.
It's Josh Allen's legs generally. So yeah, definitely surprised. Just don't get carried away with it and have him in. He's still, a flex play at most for me.
Yeah, I mean, I don't plan on starting him unless I really have to. I just don't see it happening with him. Nor do I see it with any running backs on the Bills because they're just not reliable.
No, not even James Cook that came in there and people hoping he's going to get the receptions. He's still not reliable either. They're all of them going as flex plays or deeper leagues. When you're playing multiple flex, then definitely, you can start winning them easy. But if you're just, 2 running backs, 2 quarterbacks, or 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, and a flex maybe in the flex, but it's a big maybe for me. You probably should have someone more consistent in there, and maybe they'll work on bye weeks. But yeah, it's just something that's not going to happen every week. Yeah,
I mean, Devin Singletary prior to this week, I was trying to give him away for a single penny. So, I mean, it's. It's
so you got away with it then this week anyway.
I did. I actually really was giving up not much to get I was asking for not much to get Singletary, and I had to revoke the deal because he ended up being more than just a single penny.
Yeah, exactly. You might get some better value from now, but now that you've thrown that out there, people know what your valuation was of him. So
it was really bad.
You might have screwed yourself there.
I accidentally auto draft because I forgot the draft was happening. So okay. I got him for a single penny. Anyways, let's move on from Singletary and get on with your surprise of the week.
So my surprise is a team. It's the Jags. So it's the Jags beating the Chargers, but also the Jags looking really good. And I mean, for fantasy, it's James Robinson, Travis Etienne, Christian Kirk, Trevor Lawrence, Zay Jones. These guys, if they're out there on your waiver wires, I mean, you should be definitely looking into them. I know we talk about players, under 70%, but I'm just talking about these in general. These guys, Lawrence is streamable, Robinson startable, Etienne's probably flex. I mean, Zay Jones, I think he got 10 targets last week. He
Zay
looked
Jones
good.
is a wide receiver 3.
Yeah, he looks good. He's like a Curtis Samuel, solid flex play type of guy. If you need him on a bye week when they come or you have injuries, he could probably be a wide receiver 2 for a week. Christian Kirk looks good too. I mean, there's just players on this team all of a sudden look like they could be really good for fancy. So I'd be just looking at your waiver wires and say, yeah, put a request in this week for any of them guys. That's back-to-back games you've seen where these guys are actually good. So the whole surprise was beating the Chargers, but when you go through the players and have a look at the numbers, the players for fantasy football are pretty good.
Oh, 100%. I mean, I have a possible waiver wire quarterback coming in, and he might be possibly on the Jaguars. And I mean, I was going to mention how good all these players are. I mean, the running backs, like you mentioned, James Robinson, easily RB1. Travis Etienne, I'd put him in the flex. Marvin Jones, again, another player I'd put in the flex. Zay Jones, he's currently wide receiver 24 and only 8.7% owned in ESPN fantasy leagues. So that needs to be changed as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Probably someone that will be picked up more. I think a lot of people are overlooking him. He's not my waiver wire wide receiver, but I think he is a top waiver wire wide receiver of the week. But yeah,
he's not mine either. But I think it's one that we definitely got to mention here. That if he's there and you need wide receiver help, definitely try and pick him up.
I mean, it was just unbelievable seeing that he was 8.7% owned.
Yeah,
and he's a wide receiver 24.
I think it's because it's the Jags and they're attached to Trevor Lawrence, who really needs to take a big step forward.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Yeah, and I'll talk about him in the waiver wire quarterbacks.
You can talk, and before we get into it, the waiver wire guys that we've picked are attached to way better quarterbacks, more established. Yeah. So that's kind of where we look at it.
Exactly, 100%. Currently, news coming out: tests on Amon-Ra St. Brown's ankle looks to be pretty not so bad. So expect him to still be playing this week. I'll be shocked if he's out this week. Let's go to the streamers of the week. Keith, we'll start with you.
Streamer of the week for me is Josh Palmer of the Chargers. So I kind of caveated a little bit saying if Keenan Allen was out, and I don't think he will be, but the only thing is Jalen Guyton tore his ACL. So I think Palmer will still be relevant, and if you do need help there or someone to just slot in a flex, I think he could be good for 12, 13 points this week.
Yeah, I like that a lot. If Keenan Allen's out, and I mean, if Herbert is even healthy, it could also be a big jump for Josh Palmer. I like him a lot. I think he's a good stream. I'll go with my guy, and my guy is someone that really needs not much to happen for all three wide receivers to be out. That's Russell Gage. I mean, Russell Gage, he had 13 targets, 13 out of 12, and caught 12 of the 13. This man was balling out, 87 yards, 1 touchdown, had 24.7 points. And I mean, he clearly is on that team for a reason. Brady called him. He liked him. He obviously fell down in the depth chart with Julio Jones coming in, but watch for Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Julio Jones. If all three of those are out again, Russell Gage is must start.
Yeah, well, Mike Evans will definitely be back because his was just a suspension. So it depends if Julio and Godwin. I mean, I don't actually know on them. I wouldn't actually be too bullish on either of them being back. I mean, it seems too quick for Godwin on the hamstring. Julio's always hurt these days. I mean, don't get me wrong, still a great talent, but he's always hurt. I do like Gage. Do I think he'll have 13 targets next week? No. But can he have 6, 7, 8? Yes. And, can he, have 8 targets, 6 receptions, and a touchdown? Yes, of course he can. And you'll be very happy. So he's definitely a guy worth streaming.
Yeah, I mean, Russell Gage, Josh Palmer are 2 streamers of the week. Those 2 guys, it really bears on the injuries on both those teams and whether or not they're injured. If they're injured, bam, it's start. You could easily start Gage. I would start him as a wide receiver 2. Palmer, I would start probably as a flex play, or maybe wide receiver 3, depending. So now it's time where everyone's interested. The moment is here. Waiver wire quarterbacks. Let's get to it. I'll start with your guy. Who's your guy?
So my guy is Jameis Winston, and I know people are going to go, he has looked terrible so far.
Oh, man, he looks terrible.
Yep, there you go. And I mean, I don't disagree with what you're saying, but if you watch what he does if you have him in a fantasy, or if you're looking at what he does, I have him in a few super flex leagues. He's doing nothing for 3/4 of a game.
Mhm.
And he has about 5 or 6 points. And then all of a sudden he has 14 or 15 points come the fourth quarter. I'm like, okay, this isn't too bad. But like he had 353 yards and a touchdown last week. He got just under 14.62 fantasy points. Plays the Vikings this week, who are giving up a lot to passers. I mean, they are wide open down the middle. And I get that the Saints have got injury worries themselves. You know, Traquan Smith, Michael Thomas, these guys did go out of the game. Jarvis Landry, another one. But if Thomas or Landry are back, I still think Jameis is a good start this week against this Vikings defense, who has given up, so much yardage to passers.
So here's the problem with Jameis, and I think he's a great quarterback, but his interception ratio needs to go down. I mean, this man has thrown 5 interceptions in the last 2 games. He's on track to just get, I think, 28 or 29 interceptions for the rest of the season. His touchdown volume needs to go up as well. I mean, only 4 touchdowns on the season, 1 each of the last 2 weeks. It's something to keep in mind. I think he can be very, very well a key factor in waiver wire quarterbacks if you need one, especially since he threw 353 yards. Maybe he needs more eye surgery. I don't know. But I mean, he is a good quarterback, and he gets the ball out, especially to Chris Olave, who had a monster game last week. But the problem is, can he keep those interception ratio down, and can he get the touchdown ratio up?
Yeah, that was always the thing with Winston. He had high interceptions, but he always covered it with the touchdowns. Now, at the moment, he's not doing it, but I think that will come. And this weekend, I think he'd have at least 3 touchdowns.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see against Minnesota this week. I think it's good to stream Jameis Winston, especially if he has 3 touchdowns this week. And who knows, if he doesn't throw an interception, he gets easily 20 points, 20 fantasy points.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So good pick, though. I don't mind it. I would be more cautious. I would probably want my guy, who is Trevor Lawrence, over Jameis Winston. And listen, this guy, he's not lawful awful Trevor no more. It is now the amazing Trevor Lawrence. This man is 50.9% owned, scoring 19 points a game. He's going against Philadelphia this week. Last week, he had 25.18 fantasy points. This man had 3 touchdowns and 262 yards. If you look at the stats that this man has, 6 touchdowns right now, ranking 8th, 1 interception only. That's tied for first among a bunch of other quarterbacks this season. And he's right now 13th in passing yardage, 772 total yards. Last season, at this point, he had 5 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. So he has taken a major step up since last year. And last year, he only finished with 12 touchdowns. He's already got half of that in 3 games, and he had 17 interceptions. So that's something to keep in mind. And Lawrence really looks good this year, and it looks like that this Jags team is unstoppable. Obviously, they've been stopped, but they do really look good. And fantasy-wise, this team looks amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I said, I think, in the last season that Trevor Lawrence has to take a big step forward, and it's probably too big. But at the moment, through a handful of games, he's definitely taken a step forward. And I thought this week, he really shined. Definitely a good streamer. Like I said, when I went through all the Jags players as my surprise. But yeah, I mean, he's definitely a good pick going forward. I don't know whether their offense will stay as high powered, up against some of the bigger teams. But if Trevor Lawrence can show what he's made of against the bigger teams and the better teams, then yeah, he's a guy that you could just put him in every week. You mightn't even need to, be on the waiver wire anymore. You can take him in and play him every week. So yeah, he's definitely a good pick this week. I'm interested to see if he can just replicate the last couple of games again.
This is the game to watch, and this is the game that I remembered just now that I had the Jaguars beating the Eagles in my article.
Oh, really?
I was a little upset.
If Trevor Lawrence goes out and beats the Eagles, then I'll be the first person to say that he's taken a gigantic leap forward. And yeah, last year is just bad coaching, bad everything, blow that out of the water. I mean, there's still time to say that as the year goes on. But if he does this week, I'll be the first person to say that next week.
Sale Sports Cards in the chat. Hello. But yeah, Lawrence, I mean, this is a team to watch. This is a sneaky team that could really showed different major improvements, and I think this is where they hand the Eagles one of the first losses.
Oh, interesting. Do you want to? We should do some sort of bet on this one. I mean, I wouldn't mind seeing the Jags doing it, but I'm all the way on the Eagles.
Really? I don't know. We'll have to see. We'll have
We
to
can
see.
talk about some. Yeah.
We'll have to maybe get a water bet going and
Yeah, we can get some sort of bet going. Yeah.
Maybe I'll put a poll. Who knows on Twitter?
There you go. Put a poll up and see what happens.
But Trevor Lawrence and Jameis Winston are waiver wire quarterbacks of the week. It's time to go to our waiver wire running backs. I'll start with my guy, and that's Jamal Williams. The reason why I'm going with Jamal Williams is he's 44.3% owned, 15.9 points a game. He's going against Seattle this week. Last week, he had 24.7 points last week, and that's because of DeAndre Swift injuring himself. He had 20 attempts, 87 yards, 2 touchdowns. He also had 2 receptions for 20 yards. The first 2 weeks, it wasn't like he did bad. He had 11 and 12 attempts, so it's not like he didn't see the field when DeAndre Swift was there. And I think that these next 2 weeks, if it is true that DeAndre Swift is out, Jamal is going to ball. He's going to be an RB1 for the next 2 weeks, while Swift is probably going to be out until maybe week 6, like I mentioned earlier with the bye week. And expect Jamal Williams' snap percentage to go on the rise. I mean, the guy behind him, Craig Reynolds, he's the third running back. It's going to be Craig Ray no touches. He is not going to don't plan on picking him up in waiver wires. He's not going to get touches. So they're going against Seattle this week. 115 total yards with Williams and Gordon that Seattle allowed. Expect that to all go to Jamal Williams.
I mean, I expect him to be the number 1 pickup off the waiver wire this week. He was already probably in the RB2 category because of the work he was getting around the goal line and the touchdown. So, yeah, he's the main guy there now. I take it Swift will be out. Even if he's not out 2 weeks, he'll be out this week just as a rest.
Exactly.
So, yeah, Jamal Williams, probably the number 1 pickup off the waiver wire if he's out there. I'd be thinking, even if you do not have Swift in your leagues, you should be going out to get this guy. Who knows? You might just get a big trade offer from the Swift owner. But, yeah, definitely the number 1 ad for me.
Yeah, I mean, Jamal Williams, great guy to look for. He's probably, in my opinion, I think he's being overlooked. Obviously, he is going to be one of the top waiver wire ads of the week, but I think there's a couple other people, one of them including your next guy, who, if you pick up, may be able to jump over the win mat.
Yeah, I mean, so mine is Alexander Madison, a guy that I think we probably brought up last year as well, and he's probably up on every waiver wire. Why? Because Dalvin Cook always goes down with a shoulder injury, but it looks like he properly dislocated it this time. It does not sound good. And Madison is probably one of the best backups, one of the best handcuffs out there. You know, if he got a starting job, I think he'd be one of the top 20
for sure
running backs, because he is very good, very direct. He came on, had 7 attempts, 28 yards, and got the all-important touchdown, and picked up 11 fantasy points. So yeah, it's as simple as that. If you have Cook in your league, you know what happens with him. He has the shoulder problems, usually misses a game or 2 and he's back. That's fine. But you need to go out and get Madison for the gaps. He's not there. Or you're going to get Jamal Williams, one or the other. I think these 2 guys should be 1 and 2 on the running backs. If you need help there, you'd be looking at one of these 2 guys to help you this week.
Yeah, and if you're looking on ESPN on Alexander Madison's profile, our good friend Eric Moody wrote an article. If Cook is out, expect Madison to be a low-end RB1, and I completely agree with that. I think he can be a good low-end RB1, maybe a good RB2 if you really need a running back.
Oh yeah, he's definitely there. I know the numbers and everything weren't great for Dalvin Cook, so far this season, but things were going to get better. They just need to get that offense going. But Madison, yeah, low-end RB1, easy.
Only 37.1% owned as well.
Yeah, I think a lot of people have stayed away from kind of like handcuffs this year. Your Jamal Williams to Swift, your Madison to Cook, your Tony Pollard to Elliott. That might be a little bit different because people were dodgy on them. But I've seen in a lot of leagues, people are not, they're all out there on a lot of waiver wires for me. So, I'll be looking at them as well to see if I can fit these guys into my roster.
Yeah, something to be interested to take a look for and get. Another guy I do want to mention before I go on, I had him as one of my top guys, and I just want to quickly mention him is don't forget about Khalil Herbert. The man tore it up last week, 20 attempts, 157 yards, 2 touchdowns. Going up to face the Giants this week, who just gave up 178 rushing yards to both Pollard and Elliott. He's only 25.2% owned. I mean, expect him, if David Montgomery's out, expect him on the rise as well.
That was actually going to be my question, dude. Do we know the status on Montgomery? I know he got knocked out of the game. I'm still playing catch up on a lot of these games. I'm trying to go back and watching highlights and stuff like that. I missed this game and I didn't hear any reports.
David Montgomery, he had an apparent injury that ended up having him go out. He's day-to-day right now, labeled day-to-day. But again, that could easily maybe change to week to week, depending on how his recovery is.
Yeah, and sure, like if Herbert looked good, so he could just slot in and give Montgomery a rest.
Exactly. Jamal Williams, Alexander Madison are our 2 top waiver wire running backs of the week. Now it's time to go to our waiver wire wide receivers. And Keith, we'll start with you.
So this was interesting. So me and you don't we don't ever share, who we're going to pick and all that. And all of a sudden we had the same one. So I've moved off and I'm letting you have the guy that I was on. So I'm going with Isaiah McKenzie for the Buffalo Bills. 9 targets, 7 receptions, 70 yards, and the all-important touchdown to get the points up there. I mean, he did get banged up, I think, on the very last play or one of the last plays. So I hope he's okay. But he's looked pretty good in that kind of slot role. And more importantly, they play the Baltimore Ravens this week, who have given up the most passing yards, 1,060 yards so far this season. And they're going up against Josh Allen and this high-power offense. I mean, I think Allen control the ball around to everybody this week, and they could all do well. Diggs, Crowder could even get in action, Dawson Knox, and then I think Isaiah McKenzie will see his fair share. So I think he's a great pickup this week.
Yeah, and something to keep in mind is Stephon Diggs. He's facing a lower body cramp last game. Just keep an eye out this week on the practice reports, just in case, because God forbid Stephon Diggs can't play. Isaiah McKenzie had 9 targets for 7 receptions, so don't be surprised if that continues to be like that if Stephon Diggs is especially out.
Yeah, true.
So yeah, I like the Stephon Diggs, and he's Isaiah McKenzie. He's only 14.2% owned, so he should be owned he shouldn't be owned in many leagues.
Yeah, I think he'd be nearly a freebie. I think because we spoke about Madison and Jamal Williams probably being the top 2 guys people are going to pick up. So if you're okay with your running back and every other position, go take a sneaky chance on McKenzie. I think he'll reward you.
Exactly. I mean, it's a sneaky pick, especially if Diggs is out. So make sure to pick him up while he's still on the waivers.
Exactly.
The next guy for me that we shared. It's time to once again light the torch on Mr. Greg Dortch. This man is lighting it up every single week. 17 points last week. Wide receiver 19 right now. He's a wide receiver 2. This man had 10 targets, 9 receptions, 80 yards. Didn't even get in the end zone, but still showing wide receiver 2 numbers. The guy's been on the field for over 70% of the snaps each and every week. And I expect that to continue. And it looks as if AJ Green is no longer relevant in that squad. I mean, he clearly pushed past AJ Green on that depth chart. D-Hop, Rondale Moore, watch out for those 2 guys. Of course, D-Hop still suspended. Rondale Moore, watch out for his injury, whether or not it's still concerns. Maybe he might not play. But I think Greg Dortch is finally able to be maybe a reliable starter for the time being until Rondale Moore and D-Hop are back. Even when Rondale Moore comes back, I still kind of am intrigued with Greg Dortch still. I think I would still be fine with putting him in the flex play.
Fully agree with everything you say. I mean, Dortch has just looked great. And while D-Hop is out and while Rondale Moore is out, I think he's going to ball. I still think, like you said, he's going to have a say in this offense and still see some of the target share when Rondale Moore is back. Like week 1, 9 targets, 7 receptions. Week 2, 4 targets, 4 receptions, caught them all and got the all-important touchdown there too. Yeah. So, the guy he's very efficient and Kyler Murray is looking for him. So he was practically free. I picked him up in a lot of leagues last week.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to reward me in the meantime while D-Hop is out, because he'll probably get the focus along with Hollywood Brown once he gets back. But for now, I think you're very safe, and I think he's got some good upside as well, Greg Dortch.
averaging 15.3 points a game, 7.3% owned in all ESPN formats. He's facing Carolina this week, who just allowed over 300 passing yards to the wide receivers for the Saints.
Yeah, I mean, he could blow them away. Who knows this week?
Exactly. I mean, you can't go wrong.
Exactly.
Can't go wrong with him. And he's probably going to be overlooked again this week.
He probably will be. I mean, not enough people will pick him up.
No.
And if they do, well, then I think they will be rewarded. But I mean, he won't go near the 70% like we talk about.
No. I mean, this kind of was like a Hunter Renfrow last year.
Yeah, exactly. And it'd be interesting to see if and when Rondale Moore comes back and D-Hop, is Greg Dortch still relevant? I still think he will be. You might see the 9 targets. You might get back down to what he got week 2 to 4. But if he catches all 4 and gets a touchdown most weeks, then you're going to be happy.
Question for you: Rondale Moore comes back fully healthy.
Yeah.
Are you starting Rondale Moore over Greg Dortch? Or are you starting Greg Dortch over Rondale Moore?
I'd still, on the first game back, I'd still play Greg Dortch in the flex over Rondale Moore. I'd rather Rondale Moore, for me, with the injury and last year being okay, I suppose. Yeah. I need to see what he can do before I'd feel confident putting him in my roster.
Yeah, something to keep in mind for the time being until Rondale Moore comes back. But Greg Dortch, light the torch. Isaiah McKenzie just around the corner with him. And those are our 2 waiver wire wide receivers this week. Time to go to our final segment, waiver wire tight ends. Tight ends have been interesting this year because there's actually tight ends that you can pick up that are in the top 10 and have stayed in the top 10. So we'll start with your guy. Who's your waiver wire tight end ad of the week?
I think I picked him maybe last week, but it's Robert Tonyan anyways. 7 targets, 6 receptions, 37 yards. I mean, it doesn't sound great, but it's still 9 fantasy points, which not bad for the position. Tight ends is always iffy. It's always hit and miss until you find that guy, if you're streaming them particularly, till you find that guy that's just consistent every week. Why I like Robert Tonyan is probably, I've said it before, it's that Aaron Rodgers trusts him. I know there's all these talks. Romeo Doubs looks good, and I was reading today that he could be the new wide receiver one and stuff like that. I get it, but Alan Lazard is still there. Robert Tonyan's still there. Dobbs will drop 2 balls, and Aaron Rodgers won't look his way. We all know what Rodgers is like. So Robert Tonyan is a guy that Rodgers trusts, and I think he should be good most weeks for 5 or 6 targets.
Yeah, this man's going to get Tonyan targets. Tonyan of targets, 7 targets, 6 receptions. I'm on the roll today, 9.7 points last week. And I mean, like you mentioned, he's still getting the targets, and I think he's going to continue to be one of Aaron Rodgers' safety blankets, if not one of the top receiving core players on that team, since Romeo Doubs, wide receiver 1, all the hype is there, but does he actually get week-to-week production?
That's it.
Alan Lazard.
Yeah,
Christian Watson's gone.
Yeah, I don't know what that's all about.
I think it was a healthy scratch this week.
I didn't see a whole lot of them out there anyways when the games actually watched back. But it wasn't a great game really because the Bucs didn't do a whole lot. But it's Lazard, Dobbs. We'll see what happens. Tonyan, they're the main guys, and then also you got the running backs there.
Yeah, this Christian Watson was inactive this Sunday. He was facing a cramp in one limited session due to a hamstring injury. It must have been how fast he was running to try and catch that ball that he dropped. But I mean, Watson is not going to be looked at from Aaron Rodgers anytime soon until he proves the fact that he's reliable.
Exactly. So I think as a tight end, and if you're streaming, I think it's fine. But Tonyan's a guy I think you can put in week to week, and you'll get near that 10-point production. And if he gets you a touchdown, you'll be happy.
Exactly. Going on to my tight end of the week, this man is only 11.5% owned. And the fact that he is tight end 3 and continuing to stay top 5 each and every week, Tyler Conklin, hello, New York Jets. I mean, this man has been jetting across the field, 16.4 points last week, tight end 3, like I mentioned already. He had caught all of his 8 targets for 84 yards. He had 16.4 points last week. That's really, really good for a tight end who we usually see maybe like 10 to 12 points a game. Week 1, 7 targets. Targets are still there. 92% snap percentage. Let's look at week 2. 9 targets. Even better. This man played every single offensive snap here in week 2. 100%. Week 3, his percentage went down to 79%, but he still had those targets. 8 targets for 79% snap percentage, 16.4 points. All those 8 targets. This man's over double digits every single week. And he's facing Pittsburgh this week, a favorable matchup, who just gave up David Njoku, 9 receptions, 89 yards. If this man is not owned in any one of the leagues that you are in, go snag him up and go start him because he's a plug-and-play guy.
Definitely a plug-and-play guy this week against the Steelers. I mean, Flacco just likes to throw to the position. That's what it looks like too. But, Flacco has been mixing up, I suppose, as well. But Conklin, we've seen in his Viking days, he's a decent tight end. He's very good. It was kind of the whole thing with the Jets bringing in C.J. Osama as well. It was like, how is that going to work? But Conklin looks like the guy, especially that's, for fancy, is going to get all the work, getting all the targets, getting all the touches. So yeah, he's definitely streamable this week. I really like him against the Steelers. He could have another big week again. So yeah, definitely go pick him up. Whether it's gonna, he's gonna keep up the big points and the consistency once Wilson's back. Who knows? But I expect once Wilson's fit and healthy, he'll go straight into that team. But I think they're actually a better team with Joe Flacco. I think they look a lot better. I think he gives them a better chance to win.
Yeah, so, I agree.
So yeah, so I think Conklin is a great pickup this week.
Yeah, Tyler Conklin. I mean, tight end 3. No one, I think, expected him. Yeah, no one. If you called that, I mean, I give yourself a pat on the back. I'll have you come on the show. But yeah. Absolutely crazy. I think Conklin was even top 32. I think, or if not top 16. I mean.
No, and I think he was like the afterthought of the pickup. I think they went out and they got C.J. Osama from the Bengals, and then they were like, okay, then we want another tight end, then get Conklin. But Conklin's the one that's working out so far.
Yeah, he's been the guy, tight end 3. Robert Tonyan getting a ton of targets. So those are 2 of our waiver wire tight ends. Keep saying wide receivers. They're basically wide receivers. You're doing so
tight ends,
well.
Man, tight ends.
I mean, I'm not used to these tight ends doing really good. Waiver wire tight ends, Tyler Conklin, Robert Tonyan are our 2 guys. And that's going to do it here on this week's episode of Week 3 of Fantasy Waiver Wire Pickups. Once again, if you don't use code SportsTimeHQ on Underdog Fantasy, they're not going to match your first deposit up to $100. So you need to download the app and you need to register using code SportsTimeHQ so they can match your first deposit of up to $100. And be sure to follow us all over social media at SportsTimeHQ. Make sure to follow my co-host Keith all over social media at SwampDonkey_90. Make sure to follow him and his fiance on Instagram at HuddleUp_90. That's going to wrap it up. I'm Fran Geronimo. We'll see you all next week here on YouTube. Don't go anywhere.